Well, if you're surprised that SNL is still a topic of conversation in pop culture,
So are we.
I'm right there with you. So SNL has had its first episode back after the SAG strike is over, so they can get movie star guests on again, like Timothée Chalamet. He hosted this one, and a couple of skits really pissed off the internet. And I was surprised to see this because, I mean, SNL is just not funny or interesting or provocative anymore, and it hasn't been for a long time.
What was the first one?
So they have to name drop people to get into the conversation. So one skit made fun of Britney Spears' new memoir. And
let's hold off on we got a $20 super chat here. Let me see if I can read it from Dreamcast Night. It says, lol, Darben, Captain Marvel goes back to her old job and what happens next will shock you. LMFAO or LMAO. Yeah, the end of the movie, like I've already like wiped it from my memory. Like the end of that movie.
The post-credit scene?
Yeah. Like no, the whole movie. I've already pretty much wiped the whole thing from my memory.
Into the vault.
Yeah.
Into the vault. So this one skit was a parody of Britney Spears' memoir, and it wasn't really making fun of Britney Spears. It was just a bunch of fake celebrity audio book.
Yeah.
Recordings. Like they had,
it was making fun of the celebrities.
it was
more
making
than
fun of
her.
Yeah, it was doing impressions of people like John Mulaney, impressions of like Bill Hader, Ice Spice, Timothée Chalamet himself, and it was making fun of them more than it was making fun of Britney Spears. But Britney Spears' manager was very angered by this, and he left a comment saying, wow, the writers of SNL are getting worse and worse. No wonder you all reached out to me to get Britney on the show. SNL is on life support. You all are pathetic, and this Chloe isn't funny. Did you find her on Craigslist or something? He's referring to Chloe Fineman, who played Britney Spears in this skit.
Yeah.
Which, from what I've seen from her, she's not that bad. Right?
I mean, I thought her mannerisms were pretty spot on in the bit, but it's not funny. But
whatever,
Saturday Night Live
it's
hasn't
not
been funny,
but it's
years.
also not what I would consider offensive. And the one that people were really mad about was Timothée Chalamet's skit where he made a joke about Hamas. It says, they drop a Hamas joke on a skit where Timothée Chalamet says he has a band called Hamas. Spelled the same as Hamas,
yes.
Which is followed by a Please Don't Destroy member saying he's not sharing a band by that name on Instagram. Quote, dude, I'm not sharing a song by Hamas on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's
the number one comment.
None of this made me even chuckle
No.
or exhale through my nostrils, but it's funnier to see people's reactions to it. So here are some of their tweets. One said, making jokes about an ongoing genocide when people are actually dying every second of the day. So effing disgusting. These people are sick F's Timothy they said F Timothée Chalamet, F SNL. Another said, by the way, do not go watch Dune Part 2, LOL. Nobody's going to remember this happened by the time Dune Part 2 comes out. If Timothy is going to act in a movie largely inspired by Islamic texts and Arabic culture, then he can at least have the decency to not make jokes about Palestinian suffering.
Those don't connect in any way, shape, or form.
No, they don't. This was particularly savage. While I'm at it, F Timothée Chalamet, you toothpick built, shovel shaped, bicycle seat face ass bitch. What an evil, frail man. And even a Timothée Chalamet stan account chimed in and said, I think Timothy should address the situation and apologize. I really hope he does. He can't just ignore what happened.
First of all, he absolutely can ignore it.
Yes.
The internet is outraged about something new every 10 minutes. They will forget about this in less than a week. And just because he makes a movie that's based on things that have Arabic script does not mean he owes anyone anything. It's an American interpretation of the story. It does not matter.
No, I think they're just really grasping for straws to justify their outrage. I mean, yeah, the joke wasn't funny, but it wasn't offensive either.
Yeah, none of the jokes were funny, but they weren't offensive. Saturday Night Live, the most offensive thing about Saturday Night Live is their track record of being that unfunny for that long when everyone says they're supposedly supposed to be comedy.
It's so easy to offend people these days that... Thank you.
you guys. I saw somebody on Friday left a comment that said, there was a comment.
I can't hear you over this crisis party.
There was a comment on Friday that said, Mary thumbs up, Vera thumbs up, Brett thumbs down, crisis party thumbs down.
They don't
To
like
which I
it.
say, tough luck, bro. That's tough. That's tough. Yeah, like you
The
don't
crisis party is not going anywhere.
you don't get to choose like what gets posted and what gets to be what's considered humorous or not. The top comment on the Britney Spears one says exactly, and it just feels disrespectful given that the memoir is literally about her trauma. I mean, it's monetizable trauma.
Okay, if we can't make jokes about trauma, what can we joke about?
Yeah,
because
where
I
does the
thought the
line?
whole point of that, like making dark humor, is like as a coping mechanism.
Yep.
And I get it. Like they would say, only Britney is allowed to make jokes about her own trauma.
No, not
But it's like
as long as you're
she
making.
makes money off of airing out her dirty laundry and her trauma, and also dragging other people's names into it, whether you think that's right or not, like Justin Timberlake or her sister Jamie Lynn. Like you're profiting off of publicizing your trauma. Therefore, it is the public's right to speak on it and joke about it as they wish.
Yep.
And even though SNL attempted it in an unfunny way, I don't think it's anything to be scandalized over. I'm
Yeah.
also surprised that Britney has a manager because she doesn't really work anymore.
I mean, she still has tons of assets and things that need to be handled.
I guess.
And even just the release of a book like that means she would need a manager.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess so.
Yeah, you don't get to create something for public consumption and then expect people to not have anything but positive reactions to what you create. That's not how the world works. I would love that if we could just make
I
this
did
and-
appreciate that they made a jab at Jada Smith's memoir
Yeah. She
and
like
how it's totally irrelevant.
as long as the book is for sale and it's part of the public consciousness, she doesn't get to decide what people say about it in context of good or bad.
I mean, I don't think Britney cares anyway. Her fans are just being performatively outraged for her on her behalf, you know? They also did a skit where they made fun of Troye Sivan, and this says Timothy Chalamet and Boy Genius dressed as Troye Sivan dancing and pulling their pants down. None of these words are in the Bible. That's for true.
I saw people pointing out they said Troye Sivan's officially made it.
Is that?
I guess that's
you get shouted out on SNL.
Well, no, it used to be Weird Al covers your song, and that's how you knew you made it. When Weird Al did a parody.
Now it's Boy Genius.
When Weird Al did a parody of your music, that's when you knew you made it. But
And
not
while
really.
everyone was getting offended, they resurfaced an old SNL skit that featured Adam Driver.
So you were like, she's like, this is new. I'm like, dude, this is no way.
No.
There's no way this is new. He looks like 12 in this.
So this
video.
is from 7 years ago, and the skit is the magic carpet ride. He's Aladdin, and he's riding through the sky with Princess Jasmine.
Yeah.
And I guess one of the jokes was they're flying over Syria and a bomb hits them. We can't show it here because they'll sue us, but the tweet here says, reminder that this man in the video, Adam Driver, signed up for the military after 9/11 to get retribution against Muslims. And to this day, he still does motivational TED Talks about him being in the Marines and what it feels like to hold weapons and fight for this country.
This has been fact checked by
Yes.
by Twitter.
So here is his actual quote. He said, after 9/11, he found himself filled with a desire for retribution, although he wasn't sure against what or whom. Quote, it wasn't against Muslims. It was, we were attacked. I want to fight for my country against whoever that is.
Which used to be something this country valued, right? Because America used to have values based on the idea of protecting your country, fighting for the country you were born to. But in globalist modern times, you're not allowed to do that because the country proliferates a lot of views from a lot of different people. So there's no unifying ideology around the country anymore. Therefore, you're always going to be dragged by some portion of the group. Oddly enough, I mean, it is part of what's baked into the country's values, right? The idea that speech is free and you should be allowed to voice your opinion on things is what ends up making it harder for those types of old school American values to really hold on. Because now there's a lot, you saw the people over the weekend who were like pulling down American flags over Veterans Day.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, in New York City,
but
and
not surprised.
That's what we have to deal with, because we do believe that speech should be free and that you're allowed to have your to believe what you want, to practice the religion you want, and say what you want. And his views were not bad in 2001. They're not bad now, and they certainly weren't bad in 2001 or 2002. But they're dragging him because it's convenient to the Marxist ideology that's going on right now between America's support for Israel and then the pro-Palestinian people that are fighting it.
I don't know why anyone would be surprised in general at SNL making Hamas the butt of the joke.
It was barely a joke.
Whatever. It was their attempt at a joke, their poor attempt at a joke. Because Lorne Michaels is Jewish.
Yep.
Just like you wouldn't be surprised to see pro-Israel coverage on TMZ because Harvey Levin is Jewish. Yep. We know where their biases lie. Like, why would you be surprised by that?
Nor should you really have, like, as long as they're honest about what their beliefs are, I have no problem with that either.
Also, I mean, do you think that Timothée Chalamet sat and thought, like, I have to worry about my image? Like, is this joke going to make me...
I feel like they should these days. If they were smart, they would. But, like, he's not going to... Like, it's possible that he turned down other jokes, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, is he at a point in his career where he doesn't really need to worry about that?
Also, it was so mild. It was so mild that this is going to disappear in
it was a non...
It was barely a joke.
Yeah. It was.
He made a joke about being in a band named, what was it, Hamas?
Hamas, but it's spelled the same as Hamas.
Spend 5 minutes on the internet. You will find thousands upon thousands of things that are far more shocking than something that bland. Like, if Saturday Night Live is now edgy, then that's a sad commentary on the way life is going. If I have to look at Saturday Night Live as in any way edgy, that's depressing.
SNL is edgy humor.
No, thank you.
In 2023.
I refuse to believe that, and I refuse to go by those standards. Spend 20 minutes on any social media. It's like it's like when people were making jokes about the submarine, right? The internet's where you go for edgy humor. That's what you get.
Yeah.
There's a $20 super chat here from Philip Reed. Says, I find as a trucker, the closer I get to tolerant cities, the more intolerant I become. I'm sure a lot of people. You should start it. You know what you should do, Philip? You should start a YouTube channel. There is a YouTuber named Alex Nino who makes these, it's just like day in the life of trucker videos that I always get a huge kick out of, where it's like, his reels are like, I had to get up early to make a delivery. And it's like him making the delivery. And I'm sitting on my phone like, why am I watching this? I have no idea why I'm watching this, but it's interesting. Because he tells you all the stories, like all the pitfalls and things that become like in the life of a trucker, right? Where to sleep, like at times when his truck got robbed or attempted to have his truck robbed and stuff like that. You can make like it's a golden age. Story times. It's a golden age to have like an interesting job or hobby if you're also creative, because it was like the video I showed you or I sent you about the lady who's like looking at Taylor Swift's veneers. It's like anybody
she's like an orthodontist that makes TikToks.
Anybody with a job that can somehow find some type of connection to some aspect of culture that they can then, like put their spin on it. Like, you can do anything these days with things like that. You just got to be interesting enough. And then you don't have to go on Saturday Night Live and pretend to be funny.
Yeah, the reason Timothée Chalamet was on SNL this weekend was to promote Wonka.
Yeah. Which is also not tracking high at the box office.
Is that out already?
No, it comes out December 15th, I believe.
Oh, okay. He was talking about Hugh Grant's Oompa Loompa dump truck.
You can't make this stuff up. There was literally nothing funny in the Britney Spears segment. There was like maybe one line that got a wry chuckle out of me from the Hamas bit. The rest of it, it's just, you should be more ashamed that your skits are that painfully unfunny.
Yeah.
Yeah. How would you do it then? Like, what would be something? What's something that you've seen recently that you think is funny that they should put on Saturday Night Live?
I think that racist podcaster was a good skit.
Was that the?
Remember that?
Oh, the one where the guy.
Who was that guy?
That was literally the.
He also makes the horny Batman skits.
Yeah, it was like racist podcast. It was like literally the name of the podcast.
He's wearing like a pillowcase that
Yeah.
looks like a KKK hood.
And he's talking with his friend about how
Like that's the kind of skit humor that SNL would never touch with a 10-foot pole. Only people on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube who are just doing it for fun are willing to go there.
somebody mentioned Dr. Pimple Popper. Do you watch those videos?
No, I hate those
Those those tend to have a very divisive effect. People either will watch those for hours or they can't stand them.
They're disgusting to me. But like, I watch mukbangs and a lot of people think that's disgusting.
Yeah, I can't do that stuff. Except for hot gal lady who does but I don't watch the full videos. I
Girl
watch
who eats a dozen donuts at a time.
But that's the 1 minute video that I watch. I would never go. You're never getting me to click.
I like
click to
Trisha
the longer
Paytas
video.
mukbangs.
Ugh. Like I can't sit through that. That's
Like I'm
just-
not a Nikocado avocado viewer.
Yeah,
It's got to be the right person.
can't do it. Can't work.
But
for
I'm
me.
just saying, like, SNL has been usurped by influencers who are way funnier than them.
with way more creative freedom,
With more
less
creative freedom and
resources.
less money.
And
yeah.
less research. And that's what's always funny about it too. It's like the stuff I like. Okay, so there's the guy who makes like. Remember when I sent you? It's like if church choirs had producer tags, and it's like it's
Yeah.
the guy who does the.
It's stuff like that. Or the
has a-
submersible song.
The guy did a new one where it's like when your dad sings a rap about getting divorced and it's like a certified child support classic. Like that, like way less resources, have to put more thought into what you're actually making, and people appreciate the fact that it's not the lowest, even if it's the lowest common denominator in humor, it's still more work because you don't have the endless money and infrastructure to make it. And I like the best stuff that I watch ends up being stuff made by people who make it in their apartment, and all the stuff you end up seeing is stuff like I watched this one where this guy and his girlfriend, where it's like you have to make your girlfriend it's done like an MMORPG. It's like you have to make your girlfriend not angry anymore, and he walks and he's always paused like a character, and then it's literally done as if you're watching a cutscene. And it's not like it was done with like a bunch of people. It's a cameraman, it's them, and it's a bunch of work done in post-production, but it was just done in their apartment. And I watch stuff like that, and I'm way more interested in how they make that work than how 10,000 people make a Hamas joke on Saturday Night Live. Right? And maybe that's also part of it too, is like when you watch people who just create with their phones or it's there's the one guy where it's like watching TV and he turns on the TV and it's a guy who just reacts to crazy ads as if they're like, a lot of them are like fake ads, but like he's like pretending, he's like watching them as if they were real. And I'm always like, look, it's not even super high production value, but more thought goes into it because the guy has to go look for the resources. He has to react. Like, I like that stuff. And it just feels like you have more of a soft spot for like independent creators.
Yeah. And that's why SNL's ratings have been going down, plummeting further and further.
And that stuff is also going to always kind of be the last bastion of decentralization, right? Even though you're all looking at it on these platforms, I guess you could say that it's centralized because it's on what? It's on TikTok or it's on Instagram or something like that. You're still watching something that was the product of a couple of people's ideas that get brought to you on one channel amongst millions of channels. Whereas when you watch Saturday Night Live, it's a bunch of people's ideas on one channel on a handful of network television channels that are curated for you, so you know that what you're getting is like the sloppest of slop. Which is
But
just,
still corporate approved.
exactly like
Still
it's-
advertiser approved.
It's like when I pointed out that, like, look, as much as you might think Eminem was edgy, he was still the establishment even back then. They were playing his songs on the radio. It was just more allowed back then to be edgy in the mainstream because the industries as a whole were still probably slightly more conservative and becoming more liberal by the day. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.